tuned in before, hopefully they'll hop right back on.
Yeah.
But this is Life Change Lounge with Life Change Institute, and I've got a special guest here with me that I will introduce in a minute.
Okay.
Maybe that was the reason for the take.
Maybe.
But I just want to welcome everybody. As we do on Life Change Lounge, we try to introduce real people and give their real story and talk about the life-changing things that they've been doing. So send in the questions, send in the feedback, send in the comments. I'll be able to screen them here as we do our ADHD interview.
Yeah.
We're both
ADHD. This
is gonna be a hell of a ride, dude. But I want it to just be real and be natural. So we only ask 2 scripted questions, and then we see where the conversation goes.
Okay.
So we'll take an hour, see what happens, and go from there. So send in your questions and your information there as soon as you can, or whenever you can, when you come up with stuff.
Okay.
My personal guest tonight, Cecilia Marie.
Hello, everybody.
And she is my guest. We've been working on this for a few months, trying to get you here.
We've been planning this for a while with Sophie, and
I'm excited,
trying
dude.
to get it all ready.
I think that your story brings a lot of truth. I think that your story brings a lot of value, and I think it brings a lot of deliverance for some people. So I'm excited to do that. So Cecilia Marie, you are. I want to get the titles right for Sweet Surrender.
So my studio, I call it Sweet Surrender Studio.
Sweet Surrender Studio is the title, but your title is owner, or
so I'm the owner. I just basically, when I introduce myself, I say I'm a tattoo artist, I'm a veteran, and I'm a mental health advocate. That's the best way I can describe what I do. Once upon a time, I wanted to do art therapy. I wanted to fuse art therapy with tattooing, but in that kind of field, there's rules, of course.
And we all love rules.
There's only so much that you can discuss about your personal struggles, your personal life. And I wanted to open that up to allow my story to be an example of how far you can fall and how high you can go.
Yeah. And it's not even like a fall, but it's how far life will bring you down necessarily. Absolutely. Because it's not like you intentionally went through some of these things, right? But it's just the way the story kind of maps out.
Yeah.
So Sweet Surrender Studio, located in Virginia Beach, and we're going to do all the plugs at the end, and we're going to give the shout outs and all the plugs, but I just wanted to get that out there. So Cecilia Marie is here, and she's a real person. So let's ask some questions, send them in. We only have 2 scripted questions. So I'm going to start with one at the beginning, and then towards the end, I'll give you the other one. But let's see where the conversation goes, and then we'll tell your story in there. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Awesome.
So first and mainly scripted question is your life change moment. And when I thought of this, I wanted just people, I know that we have a lot of moments that happen, a lot of situations, but there's usually 1 or 2 that are pivotal ones that have made our lives to what they are now, because we can get stuck in the nuances of the negativity of our lives.
Yes.
And I don't want to stay there.
I want to the rabbit hole.
There you go.
So
I know it's rabbit season. My dog's been chasing them like crazy.
Oh, same with ours.
But what is the life change moment for you that brought us to know this Cecilia Marie here?
Yeah.
So what's the life change moment?
So it's actually tied into what my business is named.
Okay.
And that's Sweet Surrender Studio. I talk about this every now and then, but what Sweet Surrender, and I actually have it also tattooed on my chest, it holds very dear to my heart, because that, to me, especially when I go to work every day and I see it, it reminds me of probably my darkest times. And that sweet surrender, that moment, that's my life change moment, was when the sweet surrender represents to me my pride and my ego.
So it's not that you were surrendering to the dark moment.
No. Surrendering, more like surrendering your pride and ego, that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be human. It's okay to need the help. So for me, it was dropping my guard. It was going, okay, well, I need to change something. I make mistakes. It's okay to work on them, and work on ourselves, and it's okay to ask for help. So that, for me, sweet surrender is like that moment of my lowest, and that I need help, and that's what it's for me.
This by no means, Cecilia, is a we're going to do therapy online type of thing. But for people who are watching and thinking, okay, I had these low moments and it brought me to here, and I'm not asking for any of the details, sort of thing.
Was just a pivotal
moment.
But
what are the things, the situations brought about, right? Like that you saw this, X, Y, and Z was going on kind of trauma-wise in my life, but I found this and this falling apart as a result, whether it was I couldn't relate to people, or, I couldn't I couldn't go.
So for me, I spent 4 years in the military.
Okay.
Did a couple deployments. I was very young while in the service. I got out of the service, I have 2 kids, go through divorce, just like so
Right.
many life changing moments.
Right.
And I just felt overwhelmed. I
Right.
was away from family, away from my kids for a while, and then trying to make your life work. And
Right.
I had hit the lowest of low. I didn't have a car. I had to take public transportation everywhere. I really didn't have money, just enough to rent a space and
Was
work.
this all here in Virginia Beach?
No, this is actually all in Colorado.
Wow.
So when I got out of the military, moved out there to try to, change my life outside of military and
Right.
try to go to school, try to raise kids. Like
Right.
there's a lot of things, a lot of factors. So for me, it was just feeling overwhelmed, not really understanding. For me, my mental health, I thought I had everything under control, realizing I didn't.
So was there, so we know therapy-wise, trauma-wise, like traumas and events happen that cause our mental health to go one way or the other. But are you saying like your mental health, you thought you had your mental health under control because you could control situations, or was it that you were dealing with, depression, or you were dealing with stuff that you didn't even know was your diagnosis going into these?
No, absolutely. It's looking back now, knowing what I know now, I was definitely depressed. I was in complete denial.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had everything under control.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize the decisions you make, all those small decisions you make, end up just snowballing into something way bigger and outside of your control. That just when you suppress, which I was used to suppressing my issues, saying, "Oh, everything's fine," and eventually it just blows up. And then you realize, "Oh my gosh, what is going on?" So for me, it was just everything. Whether it's current situations, past trauma, military trauma, you just throw everything in there and it just starts boiling over.
Was your going into the military, like, I don't know, you grew up in Colorado, or did you?
No, I grew up here.
So
I grew up here. A military family.
Gotcha. So did you go into the military trying to run from your trouble or run from your mental health issues? Or was it there that that you went to try to solve it yourself? Or
you mean going into the military?
Going into the military, making some of the moves that you did. Were you trying to take care of it yourself? I know there's the denial part, but
I think what led me to go to the military was just wanting to be fiercely independent. And at that age, 17, 18 years old, you think we all think we know everything, and I'm gonna go do this. I mainly joined because I have a big family of military, but also I wanted school money. I wanted benefits. I wanted it to be stable. And then of course 9/11 happened. We had no idea what was going to happen. And so, getting deployed at such a very young age, that's where some of my trauma kind of happened. It was right after I had my daughter. I was sent to Iraq when she was 3 months old.
Wow.
There was just there's a lot there. I didn't understand any of that because you suppress. And then when you get out of the military and you're in civilian life, you have 2 young kids and you're trying to figure out what to do next. That's where everything just kind of went, whoa.
Why isn't your heart, maybe it is because I don't know a lot, but wasn't your heart directly at, I want to give back sort of thing to people who are going through traumas and going through situations in the military? Like we see a lot of people that come out and want to turn around and serve military population more so than anything else. You came out and opened the tattoo studio, said for everybody, let's go.
That took a long time.
Okay.
I got out in 2005.
Okay.
I didn't get my tattoo license until 6 years ago.
Wow.
So it took me a long time to get into the tattoo industry, and I didn't realize I wanted to go into tattooing until I was in art school for fashion. I was in Colorado. I started drawing. People started to go, "Oh, draw me a tattoo," and I'm like, "Oh."
And there's the difference. That's what people don't get. Like, there's a difference between drawing tattoos and artwork.
I was a seamstress. I loved fashion design. I still love it. But as I started getting more tattoos myself, it became therapeutic, and that's when I started to make the connection that, maybe I want to shift a little bit and go to. What started me going in towards tattoos was people asking for tattoo designs, but also I kind of cater more towards memorial pieces. I started getting tattoos to represent my friends and family that have passed. I wanted to honor them. So I started designing tattoos for people and friends. And then when I became a part of that journey, I think that's what brought me together. I was like, oh, that's what I want to do. I like being a part of the journey because it's therapeutic for me. It's got to be therapeutic for them.
And being able to tell a story through the artwork, through the things you do. So, all right. So this is me kind of fishing for this question, but I don't believe it. But are the tattoos a direct defiance to what military protocol is? I mean, obviously you can be tattooed in the military, but you can't have so much stuff covered, right? Like,
I mean, it's changed a lot over the years, but I believe tattooing's become more popular because of our military. People became aware of different cultures because people were traveling overseas, Japan, like the Philippines. There's all sorts of other places. And so because of the military, that's why tattoos are so mainstream.
Okay. So it wasn't like you were trying to like go at an industry that was, and that's good. I think that's important for our area, Cecilia, because we have a lot of military, friends, family, neighbors, whatever, who may look at it saying this is a defined thing, right? We know rules, right? We know regulations. This wasn't about breaking rules. This was about telling a story.
Right. Yeah. Right? I mean, there's not the only people that are really strict with tattoos. Every branch is different. As far as I know, I think they might have just changed the rules on it, but the Marines, they can't have certain tattoos. The Navy is actually the most lax with their tattoo. Like they can get a neck, they can get their knuckles done, which is insane. The Army cannot. Awesome. I was Army, so I'm just like, what now? So I don't. Now,
do you have a lot of military that come through to see you now?
Absolutely.
That's kind of cool.
I have a lot of military. They also specifically come to me because I am a veteran and I work with other veterans. I donate a 3-hour session to a veteran every month. I'm part of the nonprofit Operation Tattooing Freedom. I've been with them for a few years now. They're kind of based out in North Carolina, but they have artists in different states. Yeah. And so I'm a part of that.
Tell us more about it. Because you told me a little bit, but
what's his name?
Operation Tattooing Freedom.
The founder of it. My brain can't. I see his face, but I can't think of his name.
Right. You can Google their website and look them up on social.
All right? I know that.
So all right. So shout out to Lewis.
Lewis Hunt is the founder. And so he came up with this. He was a veteran, and I think he just wanted to give back to tattoos. And over the years, he just started recruiting artists to help donate. And so it's kind of gotten a little bit bigger. There's now somebody else that runs it as president. Okay. She's located in Colorado. It's Brandy Tompkins, if my brain serves me correctly. So I basically take care of my area. Yeah. They raise funds and they do all sorts of sales and raffles. I don't take any of that money. I just donate out of the kindness of my heart. Right. There are people that like to donate money to help with veterans. That's something where I'm wanting to pursue. Right. Maybe not a nonprofit, but maybe like a B corporation where I can have my main business, my tattoo business, but also I still want to give back. Right. The people I'm training, I'm also teaching to give back as well, as long as that's what they want to do.
That's really cool.
And I was content on being in my little bubble, in my little private studio, until I did a project with the ad council in the VA hospital. That happened last year, and that was major. I'm still very grateful that that even happened. So,
and that was as a result of your tattoo work, or
I think because I specifically cater to veterans in tattoos and having it as a safe space for veterans to just come and talk. Yeah, because a lot of veterans, including myself, we're in denial, or we're like, we don't want to go sit on a couch and
nobody wants to talk to us. Bro, why does everybody have a beef against us as therapists? Like, we're going to talk about this because you're right, because we get this sort of image of what it means to be sitting in a therapist's office saying, how does that make you feel? And then being analyzed and something written down that I can't see. Right. There's a judgment that you feel. And yet tattooing almost like bridges that, because there is no judgment there. Like, you could judge what I got, but you got a tattoo like I got a tattoo. So right. So there's a lack of, so I could definitely see the help in that.
It starts the conversation.
There you go.
I go into it and I never, I'm not licensed as a therapist or anything. So I just give that, like, hey, I've been there. I might not have been in your exact shoes, but I've been relatable in some circumstance. And because I'm so personable and I have experience, I can say, you know what, you don't always have to go to therapy. It's always just
Did she just say that?
Well, I have healthy conversations with my boyfriend about this. Shout out to my babe. Hi.
What up, babe? It's good to see you, babe. But here's the thing. Like, me and you, I had joked with you before about like, look, you should hire me on. And every session you have, I'm sitting there doing the therapy while you, right?
But I would like to do that, but I don't know the rules on how.
Right, and there's rules, and it's different because your therapeutic tattooing is different than the kind of talk therapy or those sort of things. There's a difference to how the work would be done. Exactly. So we joke about like, you're gonna have to pay double to see both of us, right? But there is an element to being able to be free to tell the story or tell, walk through whatever it is with you as you do artwork and kind of bring healing. And there's a difference to what we do. So I know that you're not by no means saying that there's not a place for us. I get that.
I think there's so many more resources now I mean, I'm all about therapy, but I also, not every therapist is created equal. You have to find the one that works for you. And sometimes it's not always, sitting on a couch talking about your feelings. I specifically go to an art therapist because I have some other things that I enjoy, and my eyes are open to a different perspective. That's why I love therapy.
Yeah. But it's a willingness to try and find what works and try to find different things.
Right.
I mean, similar to finding an artist, right? Like you have to interview them. You have to see if there's similarities. You have to see whatever. So you're right. Not all therapists are created equal.
Yeah. Same with tattoo artists. I mean, there's a whole thing going on TikTok right now about that. So,
listen, you earlier before we started this interview, what'd you say? You said the word. What word did I not like?
I said jelly.
Jelly. And now you're talking about TikTok. Like, how do you reference TikTok and say jelly? I'm really having a hard time right now. This is really difficult for me.
Okay?
Yo, but then you say
my kids make fun of me all the time.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this. So look, tell me about Cecilia. Tell me about I know getting out of the military, and then there was a few years in between, and then got into tattooing, got certified, licensed, all that, and then therapeutic part. Where was the how does that work from a therapeutic standpoint? I know we talked about being able to tell your story, but why is that such a passion for you in terms of that part of the artwork? Why not putting it on the wall? Why not helping people tell their story somewhere else?
It just kind of slowly, I just saw myself gravitating more towards tattooing because I enjoyed getting tattoos. And I think when I finally decided to pursue it full time, that's where I felt the happiest was tattooing. Now, the work with veterans didn't come until a few years later.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't until I joined Operation Tattooing Freedom and I realized I can do more with what I'm doing.
So who else have you been able to find that can tell their story through kind of a similar journey or journey you've been on, but who else has been able to tell their therapeutic tattoo story through you, right? What population?
You mean like my clients?
Women, freckled, teenagers.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I have so many, a wide range of clients. I mean, I have therapists that are clients. I have hairstylists. I have lawyers. I have judges. I've had dentists. I have veterinary doctors, with animals. So, but then I also have just, fresh out of high school, 18, they're getting their first tattoo. Or I have the grandma who's turned 70 years old and she wants a tattoo to commemorate somebody. And I just found myself gravitating more towards the healing aspect of it. To me, I feel like it can help. I kind of view it as like EMDR therapy, where you're talking about, if they want to, of course, but most of the time when you're sitting there, people just start talking.
They just start going.
And I just allow them to, because sometimes people just want to feel heard and just have a support. And I just kind of sit there and give, if they ask a question or whatever, they just want to talk it all out. And so it just really.
I like it.
Yeah.
We're talking, y'all, to Cecilia Marie. We're here on Life Change Lounge, and you're doing great. Like it's
my
just
ADHD moment.
Nah, girl, you're doing good. Let me ask you this, and this is the therapist in me coming out.
Okay.
Stories that may trigger you. You have your own issues, your own concerns, and things that brought you to this point where you're able to help people tell their story. But the truth is that some people's story is way too close to home, or there's features or attributes about them that are like, ooh. Yeah. So what do you do with the triggers? What do you do with your own story in that?
So for me, and I've had this happen before, I won't get into specifics, but I've related to somebody on another level, and sometimes we would talk it out, because sometimes there's something in that. Both of us talking about our perspective, it kind of brings something like,
Usually trauma is very isolating, and so we don't feel like anybody else has a similar story. And yet when we find somebody who does, I mean, literally the floodgates open. You're like, whoa, slow down. So there is a connection.
It's also, that's how it can be with anybody dealing with mental health issues, but mainly veterans as well, because I come from such a big family of it, and I myself, a lot of us feel like, and this can go for civilians too, and for anybody, but like, we always feel like our problems are our own, and we don't want anyone to know about it. We don't want it to seem weak. We don't want, it's a stigma that we don't want to look like we're this weak person. And I don't think that's entirely true. And as soon as you feel like, oh yeah, me too, I've been through that, it kind of you relax a little bit to realize you're not alone.
You're not alone.
And that's huge. Yeah, it's very
huge.
big.
Do you think, this is just a thought, do you think that the act of tattooing and putting something permanent, like artwork wise, on you is almost a direct attack at this isn't weak? Because it doesn't, tattoos aren't for the weak, right? Like they hurt. Tattoos hurt.
They
like
can.
You feel them.
For some people.
There's needles and you feel scraping. Like there's a whole lot, but there's a sense of, I'm just saying, like, but there's a sense of being able to say that because I got this permanently put on me in such a manner, this isn't weak, right? So there's something to be said about people who've been through some things, Cecilia, and they feel weak, but now they've gotten this thing that, exhibits strength, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. In a way, I always think of our tattoos as our armor. Sometimes it helps.
That's cool.
And it was in my one little video that I did. I'm trying to think what I said specifically, but basically it shows that I overcame things. Yeah. So in a way, it's kind of like closing a chapter in a book. Yeah. And being able to talk about things with my clients, or they're talking about something, and we're like, if it's a memorial piece or if it's covering something, like self-harm scars, I do a lot of that as well. Wow. And it's rewriting the trauma. Yeah. It's turning that bad, the experience, the memory, and turning it into something positive.
Well, it's giving it a new narrative, right? Absolutely. Reclaiming it, if you will. We are in control of that. And there's a saying that's out there that says that we should show people our scars, not our wounds, right? So our wounds are still not healed. Wounds are still able to be opened, but scars tell a story. And we've known that. I've done a Wednesday Wisdom on this, whatever. So part of it is the scarring, if you will, of a tattoo, but the scar that it goes with, and the whole thing tells a whole part of that story, right? Absolutely. But you're not tattooing wounds, and you're not inflicting wounds either.
Kind of.
Maybe that's why it's got to stay covered until it heals, right? Like,
it depends how you want to look at it. Right.
But you see what I'm saying? Like the scars tell the story, not the wounds, right? Yes. And so for somebody who's still raw and wide open, I mean, have there been people that you've had to turn away? They think, I want to give a tattoo in honor of blank. And you're like, no, you're not ready yet.
I can tell if somebody is so indecisive, they're not sure what they want. Mm-hmm. I did have a client very similar to that recently. And when I sense that a person's indecisive or they're just not sure because it's a very important piece, I would say, are you sure you want to get this done today? Because there's no rush. And then they're like, no, I want it. I just don't, and I have to kind of guide them a little bit. Right. But I don't put pressure on my clients at all. Right. Healing is different for everybody. I can tell if somebody's like, maybe that's too soon. Right. But some people, because of that rawness, they're like, that's even more reason why I need it.
I mean, there's a lot to be said in similar fashion, like to EMDR and to treating trauma before it sets in as PTSD. Being able to grab the traumatizing sort of event or incident or issues and addressing them so that they don't settle in the wrong place. Absolutely. So there's a lot of truth to that. Yes. There is. Yes. But that's difficult. I mean, I think that like a concern of mine, so help me out. Okay. This is my solid question, is like it puts you in a weird spot because it's risky for you, because that's a lot. That's a lot of weight to carry for people bringing in their hurts.
So for me, if I'm feeling a little just too heavy with my own stuff, I mean, I have to ground myself every day. Yeah. I say my little prayers every day to, whatever anyone believes in, I kind of more spiritual. I kind of, ground myself, and if I ask for the strength to give the light or, whatever I say, I ask, I envision, kind of give it to my
go ahead, girl. Do you think this is you?
Every day I ground myself and I imagine like the sun, kind of putting a bubble around me.
I love the hand motions that goes with this. We're going to recreate this as like a song.
It's going to be a meme. So I imagine I'm a cup. Okay. And the light from the cup, I ask that the light overflow. So that I can fill the cups of others without taking from my own. So I imagine an overflowing cup. Nice. So if I feel like my cup isn't full, maybe I might not put as much energy, but I try to. And every day I look ahead. That's why I only do 2 clients a day as well.
Oh wow!
Because not only because my hands, I have carpal tunnel and arthritis. Yeah,
man, I don't know that I want my tattoo artist to be like, hey, my hand is just stuck.
But that's why I only do 2 a day. But anyway, I'm digressing. But I only do 2 a day because that also energy wise. Yeah. And I know that I have some heavy stuff. I actually on my consultation forms now over the years. Now that I'm in my private space, I've actually catered it. Now I can actually advertise I'm a safe space.
Right.
So if somebody wants
Right.
to speak about something very specific, they don't want other people to hear,
Right.
because I do have apprentices and
Right.
assistants and stuff like that. If they want something very private, nobody else wants
Right.
to hear, I have that on my consultation sheet, so that I
Right.
make sure that nobody else is there.
Right.
That way it respects the privacy.
Definitely.
I just feel like I get joy from just being a part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Being part of the
just
safe
staying
space.
humbled for me, and just
Yeah.
knowing I've been in a dark space.
Yeah.
And if this is your one little gleam of light,
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
What is required for a safe space? Everybody has their own sort of way of defining it.
Yeah.
But for you, as you create a safe space in your studio and you have people that are looking for a safe space, like what do you think are elements that are necessary in a safe space?
I think it's a calm environment. I mean, I know I have a lot of stuff in my studio, but
Yeah.
because I'm very much a maximalist, I love vintage everything.
Yeah.
But it gives people stuff to look at and kind of take their mind off of the pain and their
Yeah.
trauma of whatever they're
Yeah.
thinking about. But for me, a safe space is just a private area.
Mhm.
When I was at the old shop, I had a little booth, and it wasn't quite private, but
Right.
there's loud music playing. There's people walking in and out. You can put a divider up, but it's still not the same.
Yeah.
So I'm in a private studio where I'm renting a room inside of a salon. It's a loft, and so I have doors I can shut. I usually play
Yeah.
calm music.
Metallica, AC/DC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We light some incense. I have
Right.
plants everywhere, and I think too, the energy I bring, I try to be calm. If I'm having a kind of a rough day, which doesn't happen very often, but I
Yeah.
get stressed every now and then.
Yeah.
I just try to check it.
Yeah.
Just kind
That's
of
cool.
take
That's
one day
cool.
at a time.
That's cool.
That's all you can do.
I think that what's cool about your story, and I love this, is Cecilia, is that you could bring a realness to that when we ask, like, hey, what's needed in a safe space for you? People that can see similarities in their story, or even feel kind of even your energy through this, to say, like, what does she use? Okay, she has a calm environment. She needs this. She has music playing. Okay,
Absolutely.
she has right.
I have like the Apple TV, and we watch whatever you want to watch. You want to watch Disney? Let's do it. If we're doing a theme, I have drinks like water, I have coffee and tea, I have pillows, blankets, sensory items. I mean, I just try to make it as comfortable for my clients. I know most of them they worry about me, but I'm like, no, this is for you.
Right.
I'm very customer service oriented. Yeah. Also from being a hairstylist, it's just I'm used to catering.
Well, that's what makes it a therapeutic tattoo. Then it's not just the artwork itself. It's not just your story. It's the experience. Yes. Right.
I like doing that. It needs to be memorable.
Yeah.
I mean, not every tattoo has to be like this, but
the ones that come through you, yeah.
For some reason, they want that experience.
Right.
Maybe they had a bad experience to another tattooer, and it's not always like that. Every artist is different.
Many of us, many out there relate when we know that we have our story of our first one, or one of the ones we got right. And mine was in some really rough spot in the New York, and it was not a therapeutic environment, right? Let's just say that.
I've heard a lot of horror stories. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
A lot. And I've had to cover up some too. I mean, that's
the other part of it.
So,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you have apprentices, you have people that work under you. Do they have to have a similar sort of journey that you have in order to want to do therapeutic tattooing, so to speak, or whatever? Or right? How do they find you? How do you grow an enterprise or a business like therapeutic tattooing for people that want to do that?
We technically can't say therapeutic tattooing.
Why not?
We're not licensed therapists.
Gotcha.
Because the nonprofit I was a part of, or am a part of, I should say, Operation Tattooing Freedom, they were calling it ink therapy. They were calling it tattoo therapy. And then, of course, you get called out because we are not licensed therapists, so we had to change it.
You want supervision? I know somebody that could do that. I mean, I
don't know all the differences of all that, but that's kind of why I changed my kind of title. I was like, you know what? I don't want to be caught in this red tape of stuff. I don't want to do anything wrong. So I can be a mental health advocate. I can just be a space if they have questions. I can tell them how it works. I get a lot of veterans or a lot of active military people who are getting out and they're like, what do I do?
Right.
I don't know what to do. So I'm like, hey, here's what you can go do.
Right.
And there's so many more resources out there now. It's insane. I wish I had
absolutely a lot more
accessible.
Yeah, I mean, back then, I mean, just
2005, we didn't really have much.
Well, and COVID, while it brought so many hurts, it also opened the gates
It really did. I'm
the
actually
floodgates
very,
for things.
I'm not going to say I'm grateful for that, but
Right.
it gave a different perspective of people who deal with mental health all the time.
Absolutely.
The world got a
Absolutely.
small little dose of that.
Yeah.
Of what it's like to be isolated, to be alone in your thoughts, and to be scared.
Yeah.
Like, that's how a lot of us with mental health and veterans, it's that dark humor. We're like, oh, welcome to our world. You know,
No
so,
doubt.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a freedom for you in being able to tell your story over and over, like, and being able to
so.
share that for you? Like, is
Yes.
that okay? Is that an okay space for you?
It isn't okay. It wasn't always. But
Mhm.
as I've worked through my own stuff, now I don't always get personal with everybody. I just tell, kind of what relates to them.
Yeah.
I do have, everyone's got their own stuff, but I feel like I try to be the person that I needed.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it takes one phrase. Sometimes it just takes
Absolutely.
one phrase to click with somebody.
Absolutely.
And for me, it was the person at the VA.
Yeah.
I was feeling very suicidal. I was feeling lost,
Yeah.
hopeless, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And I went to the VA, and that woman said something to me I'll just never forget. She was like, if you were to take your own life, your kids will never survive it because the pain doesn't go away. It just gets transferred.
Yeah.
And that shifted my whole perspective. I was
Wow.
like, I didn't want to repeat the cycle,
Right.
that was going
Keep
on
it
in my
going.
family with
Yeah.
mental health. I want to make sure, like, hey, it's okay to talk about things.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel these. Let's figure out what's going on.
I mean, there's this isolating impact, not just of trauma, but just even having an illness, having whatever. I mean, there's a lot of things that people go through that you feel like nobody else gets it, nobody else wants to hear it, or they've got their own stuff. And so your ability to be able to be vulnerable, that's a word that we don't like.
Absolutely.
Really opens the doors for other people to be transparent and vulnerable. Two words that we don't like.
There's freedom in that, though. There really is. We all hold on to the judgments. We hold on, what is this person going to think?
Right.
What am I going to think? How am I going to recover from this?
Right.
There comes a point when you can't let the other people influence you, and you got to do what's right for you in that moment.
Right.
And so it's hard, but if you want it, you find a way. That's my
I think that you could only contain it, but so much, because here's what we know too about trauma is that it's going to spill out somewhere else.
And it lives in your body.
Right. Right.
You gotta get it out, and that's why a lot of people like to get tattoos. It feels like it's coming out a little bit.
Absolutely. There's that transfer. There's a certain element again to the pain that says, it's almost like this sort of physical act of getting that hurt out.
Yeah, it's like a release. Anyone that has a lot of tattoos or get piercings or it's just a way to cope with it and a way to release some of that pressure.
Yeah. So all right, let me ask you this one.
Okay.
What are your therapeutic tattoos? Can you tell the story about some of yours? Because you only got like one or two, right? Like you don't got that many.
No, yeah.
You gave me this look like, what, are you crazy?
I was like, what?
Have you seen me?
No.
But are there ones that you have that you are okay to talk about that says, hey, this tells the story of this, and I'm okay. I needed to get this for this. Is there?
I mean, not only was I have Sweet Surrender here. That was my main one that I got during my 28th birthday. It was kind of a new chapter in my life. I had started hair school. I was learning to become self-employed. I was learning to be independent and not let past mistakes or anything haunt me, that I can make a job what I want it to be. And going to hair school, I went to a Paul Mitchell hair school. I love the culture they teach. They really teach you how to be successful and be independent. And that gave me a kind of power. Like, you know what? I can do this. I don't need a traditional job. Like that kind of pushed me to go be creative and do what I love to do.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
But Sweet Surrender is my main one. I have lots of different tattoos that symbolize important things. I don't even know.
I mean, I know they all tell a story because I have my own, right?
Yeah.
But there's some that stand out that says like, yo, this one was significant and I'm okay to share it because this helped me work through blank. Like you said, like back in 05,
I mean, I could probably, one of my favorite tattoos is the one for my grandmother. You can't see it. It's on the side of my head here.
Nice.
But she passed away. She was a very important person in my life. And I wasn't able to go to the funeral. I was really upset about it. But she was very strong, and I couldn't cope with her being gone. So I got a tattoo, a pink rose to represent her, and I got her last words tattooed on me, which was just "Let me go." Wow. She died at 64 from lung cancer, emphysema, and heart disease. And so there was just a lot there. For me, I felt like I needed to get it. Yeah. And then as soon as I got it, it felt like release and it felt closure, and I feel like it honored her, and I could talk with her, and like
Yeah.
it just said something very personable, and
Yeah.
I love it, and it's like armor. When I used to shave the side of my head, I would just be like,
absolutely, it's
so
cool. Well, it's funny, like, so for me, Cecilia, like, I love hip hop. I would write rhymes, I would do whatever. It's an outlet. Again, it's a way to tell our story. It's funny because now in this age, and things are better now, obviously, than back in the day, but the acceptance sort of rate of being able to tell your story. Everybody has a story. This is how I choose to tell mine. And so while mine may be hip hop lyrics, yours is tattoo and artwork, right? But there's some that are accepted and some that are not accepted. But as we continue to kind of not force it, but allow our story to be told however we need to tell our story, it becomes more of the norm, right?
Yes.
So many people, again, there's a stigma with tattooing, there's a stigma with having a story, but everybody has a story to tell.
This reminds me of what happened at the ad council dinner. I don't know if I told you guys this before, but so I went to the ad council
You didn't
dinner.
tell them.
Okay, guys, I went to the ad council dinner in New York. I brought my daughter with me, and I did a commercial with the VA, and it was a "Don't wait, reach out" campaign. So I went there to tell my personal story in front of a room full of really amazing people. And after they showed my personal story of why I do art and tattoos and stuff like that, a guy came up to me at our table and said, I had to come over here and talk to you. And I said, oh, okay. And he's like, I have to admit, and he told me what he does. He works for a company that helps to break the stigma of mental health. So he goes, I hate to admit this, but I had a stigma against people with tattoos. And I was like, okay. And he goes, but after watching your video of explaining why I get tattoos, because it helps tell my story, but also I wear it on my body like armor, and that it's a way to show that I overcame my obstacles. And he said it totally changed his perspective. Now he understands. And I tell that to anybody. I'm like, if you see some heavily tattooed people, they got some trauma.
They got a whole lot.
They have a lot of trauma. So just telling them my story and all of us and doing what we do, trying to help people, it's just trying to reach somebody. We might be the one thing that convinces somebody, maybe I just need to go talk to somebody. Even just talking to somebody.
Well, it's funny you share that too, because we went to another country last year and we're doing some mental health work and outreach to a friend of ours down there. And the stigma that exists for tattooing in that culture is so heavy and so big. It's like you can't be a good person. You have to have X, Y, and Z as a past or whatever. And again, we see a generation shifting. I mean, so culturally, like, it definitely impacts.
It's like in the Filipino culture. So I'm also Filipino, and I've been talking about this lady who's the oldest tattoo artist in the world. I can't say her name correctly, but it's like, I'm not even going to try. She's 106 years old. She just made the cover of Vogue, the Philippine Vogue. Anyway, part of their culture is they believe that you get tattooed. So men got it back in the day when they made their first kill, or they were headhunters. Women got them after they got married. And there are some tribes, even in China, that believe you can't take all your earthly possessions with you, but in order for you to get into heaven, you like trade your tattoos in. And it's just very interesting. If you didn't have tattoos, you got banished from the village. So it was always women that did the tattoos.
Interesting.
So I've always liked that little story.
And
it wasn't until, for the Philippines at least, it wasn't until like, I think it was the Christians or Catholics came in and was like, no, you're a heathen. Stop that. That's ugly.
Man, why y'all gotta mess it up? Exactly.
I mean, that's just how it was.
So look, as you're talking, I'm looking at this one here, though.
Yep, my semicolon.
So I know a lot of folks may know that, may not. But
know.
And yet it's so small. I missed it. We've talked a few times, but you got a semicolon. A lot of people out there get semicolons tattooed. So for those who may not know, like, tell them, like, what's the story?
So I always offer to do a semicolon tattoo. If you want it,
like, for free, like, hey, come in. Really? So if I got like one big semicolon on the side of me, I mean, I put on a little bit of weight. Okay. I just wanted to check.
But what it is, and I explain this to a lot of people because some people don't know. So Semicolon Project was founded years ago. I mean, it's got to be at least 20 years old by now. But basically, a semicolon represents anybody that's dealing with mental health issues. Maybe they were a suicide survivor. Maybe they know somebody that committed suicide, or they're just dealing with some stuff. Basically, the semicolon represents that maybe you wanted to end your story. You wanted to end your life. The semicolon represents that your story isn't over.
It's a pause.
It's a pause, and that it's just not over. So it's a symbol. Usually if we see a semicolon, we kind of give a silent little nod like, hey.
I know. Yeah.
I know how you doing. You know, you
Yeah.
doing okay. And
Yeah.
same with the military. They have their own version, which is the I got your 6 with a
Yep.
semicolon. And it's the IGY 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually want to put it here on myself so that
Oh,
when
wow.
I shake hands, you see
Wow.
it. Just to let you know, like, hey, I got your
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
And it's, again, just not knowing that you're not alone.
And again, telling a story that says, look, this is where I was, and this is, again, this that pause, but it's also that turnaround, right? I was not an English major, but it's exactly that. It's a pivot of my story.
Yeah.
And so I just thought that was just subtle, right? It doesn't have to be obnoxious. It doesn't have to, right?
I did that right when I was an apprentice and I got my first machine. I was like,
oh, you did it to yourself?
Yep, I did it to myself. So it's a little reminder. So when I'm feeling some sort of way, I look down and just kind of, it's a reminder. Yeah. A lot of people get semicolons as a reminder, like, hey, you keep going, keep going.
Absolutely.
I do them all the time. I love doing them.
Wow.
It's such a strong message.
Wow.
Small symbol.
Yeah, and I think that there's a unit. I love the unity component of it. Like the fact that it brings a community together of, again, a stigma, again, of shame that says, oh my God, I felt some type of way about this, but this brings us together and we're outspoken about it. I think that that's okay. And mental health wise, we make a living off of telling people your story is yours, tell your story. But the fact that we can have people, just like you said, judges, lawyers, doctors, whatever, that have this narrative that say, I was there and here I am now. That's huge.
I think too, our generations have seen our parents, our grandparents, and how they all suppressed it. Like, we don't talk about it. And now we see them still suffering. And it's like, I feel like the younger generations, and even my children, they're talking about it. They're very aware of it. And I think that's already just helping so many people. Yeah. Because my dad, he's about to be 6 years old. He's finally like, okay, I need to go do something, you know? Yeah. So
that's really cool.
We're reaching more and more people every day. Yeah. So I feel like it's advancing, maybe not fast enough, but we're definitely a lot further than we were 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Doing lobotomies with ice pick.
So now look, here's something that's advanced. And I asked you this when we were, I had come by, I think I came by just to say what's up, but I asked you this in private. Get a gift for somebody. Yeah. You know, women tattooing, right? Do you think you get a pass for being able to do this therapeutic, work of tattoos because you're a woman and that's what you're supposed to feel, right? How are men looked at doing this sort of work versus women?
I was trying to,
you see what I'm saying? Like, because we have talked about this before. Yeah.
So I think, not all men tattooers are bad, but there are a few. But there's also female tattooers. It really depends on the person. Mm-hmm. For a while there, it was really rough for women to get into tattooing. Right. There's more men than females. Right. I think females are definitely coming in and we're multiplying the numbers and we're just growing this whole group of just supportive women, which I love. There are a lot of people that specifically will come to me that might be because maybe they have trauma from a man. Right. So, but then also there's men that come to me because they know I'm light-handed, but not all females are light-handed.
God knows.
It can go either way. Right. There's arguments on both sides.
Right. And it feels like you got to almost constantly, and this is with a lot of industries. I have 2 daughters. And so shout out to my 16-year-old for pushing me constantly. We need equal this. We're going to do this and that. And we just argue. Yeah. And so, but there's this sort of constant fight. It's not only hard enough that I have my own traumatic story and I have a story to tell, but then I'm also fighting within an industry that continues to not want to allow me the space to not only do this work, but to be equal, if not better than, because you're better than a lot of artists that I've seen. I'm just, listen, if you're good, you're good.
I have imposter syndrome. I'm like, okay. Cool.
I think that if you're good, you're good. I think you claim that because I'm not saying that you're calling, John out by name. I'm not saying that, but when I'm good, I'm good. And I have to own that space because that's part of me. Right. But I still have to constantly fight to show you that I'm good. And that's frustrating in a lot of ways because we do. Yeah. Listen, I'm a male in a female dominated industry of therapy and I fight it constantly.
I think there's always, no matter what job, there's a stigma with almost anybody, whether you're too young, you're too old, you're a certain color, you're a certain gender. It doesn't matter. Everyone has something. Yeah. And we shouldn't have to look at those factors. You need to look at who you are and if you do your job and
I think it's the quality of the work. Well, the quality of the work, right? And the heart behind the work.
Absolutely.
Often they'll say in therapy, and tattooing is different, but you didn't get into this for the money, right? There's money to be made. Obviously, we know that it's a job, but it's about the heart of the work and it's about the quality of the work. Like, we're going to work our hardest no matter what, because every life is worth saving. Everybody's worth helping and being able to tell a story. Similar, right?
Yes.
Look at my quality of my work. Look at what I produce. Now, don't try to get caught up in the packaging. Look at what I produce.
Right. Yeah. I think I've been able to market myself more and running with that safe space, and just the work I do with veterans and people with scar cover-ups. It just slowly now that's all I really get.
Yeah.
And that's really awesome. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed it. I just found myself, the more and more people came to see me, it was more so for these types of, experiences. So I've been really just grateful to be able to do that.
Do you think you're just going to stay here to do it in this area? In the Virginia Beach?
I mean, I used to do conventions and stuff like that, and I would travel, but it gets exhausting. So I do have plans to have like a bigger space.
Yeah.
I was content on being in my little bubble in my shop, but with opportunities to talk more about what I do, I'm getting more artists, not just wanting to get into the industry. There are artists already in the industry wanting to work in a space that's like that.
So that's where I was going, was Cecilia, was to know other artists in other parts of the country, other parts of the world, or whatever, that are working similar projects to bring this therapeutic element to the artwork and to the tattoo work.
I think I'm seeing it on TikTok and in social media. There are a lot of shops all over the place, not just the United States, Canada, Europe. There are shops opening up to kind of cater, or just like that non-judgmental zone, LGBTQ friendly, safe spaces where it's not crazy loud, and it's like, okay, if you want this, it's like, I'm seeing that a lot, and people are loving it. And I think you don't have to go to that. There's a stigma with tattoo shops too. They're biker shops. They do drugs. They at parties, they're doing all sorts of stuff.
Right.
That might be true for some places, but that is not the case for everyone. And I like being something that's different.
Yeah.
And I like being able to pave the way. I've had lots of artists who just opened up their own shops too, that came to me, who've been tattooing longer than me, and they're like, hey, how'd you do that?
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, here you go. Here's some information. I'm not about, keeping that information to myself. I feel the more you share things, the more God, the universe, provides back to you. It's all about energy and all that stuff. So I feel
the transferring of it.
Absolutely. So I feel like the more I able to share, the more blessings I get back, but also my clients get back. I hear stories all the time after I do a session, how much better they feel, how grateful they are that they were able to come in. I was able to give them resources. They're, they don't know. So I like working with you guys. I now give out your cards. Hey, you want to go talk to somebody? Here you go.
That's right.
And then they do. And I'm like, yes, so
and vice versa. It's our ability
to have that little close-knit. We need a community. We need to have that.
Right. And which is something that I know plays into your bigger picture, is wanting to build a community, a therapeutic sort of a supportive community. Not just for artists.
Not just for tattooers. I do want to create something that anyone just wanting a safe space to create non-judgmental, where they can go. If they're teach yoga, they do Reiki, they do therapy, they do whatever. So
what do you tell to, and by the way, you're going great. Listen,
okay.
we're still Life Change Lounge. Listen, I want y'all to know this. I think that the story goes where it's going to go. But we've got questions, and we're open for, we want the significant ones that'll bring support and value to this. So just keep sending them in and keep watching y'all and share this later. What do you tell to, because I got a 16-year-old at home who's been bugging me for tattoos for a while. But you got minors who have a story to tell. You have minors who have trauma. You have minors who have a story, or, other populations, right? But those who may not be eligible or whatever, I mean, because everybody's got a story. We know that. But you've got a 15-year-old story. Like, what do you do? So then what do they do?
So technically, if by Virginia law, you can be 16 to get a tattoo. You have to have
Don't tell her that. She better not be watching this.
Here's the thing. I no longer do them. I used to do them on a case-by-case basis. I have kids too. I have a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old, and it's an agreement I have with their father that they have to be 18. Even though I'm a tattooer, I'm more than willing to do it. But again, I have to respect that. But anyone that brings me, comes to my studio or has a consultation that is 16 or a minor, I have to tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to change your mind and you need to be an adult. And it's nothing against you being younger. When I was in school, my friends went to house parties. Please don't do that. You go to a house party they get and now I'm having to cover those up.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying is, please wait. Your mind will change. You're still growing.
Right.
And also from a business tattoo shop perspective, there's also insurance.
Absolutely.
Anyone in Virginia that's ever been sued as a tattoo artist has been because it's been a minor.
Wow.
So if anything, I don't do it anymore.
No doubt.
I just don't.
Well, I think the truth too. So here's the thing, Cecilia, is that you are a business. You're running a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not a charity. That you give work away, you do charitable
Mm-hmm.
work, but this is a business. And so for
Mm-hmm.
people who think that this should all be done for free because you've been through some things and now you should give it all
No.
away, you're like, I gotta eat, like I gotta live,
No, I mean,
and I got a family to
if
take care of.
anything, I mean, my prices are very reasonable, I
Yeah.
feel, and most of my clients are saying, "Oh, no, it's fine. I expected way more," and I keep it $150 an hour.
Yeah.
To me, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And I think that's fairly reasonable. Now there is another artist who I don't remember where he lives, but he has several nonprofits.
Mm.
He helps do cover-ups. He goes to the jails and talks to the people, the inmates,
Yeah.
and does removal for people who are in gangs. So he does those kind of things, and there are plenty of nonprofits that will do that.
Awesome.
I can only do so much.
No, you're one person.
But I think with what I offer, it's still good.
Absolutely.
I would love to be able to, if I ever did go down the art therapy line and fuse tattooing together, I think there could be something where if you bring it together medically and prove that it's therapeutic, you can eventually get your insurance to pay for tattoos. I think that would be amazing. That's just a small
That's
idea.
awesome, dude. That's an amazing idea. I never thought about that one.
Well, I mean, the VA will pay for someone to go tan because they need vitamin D. If you can prove that tattoos are therapeutic and it does something not only to your immune system, but
there's some research and some work to be done.
There is something I've tried to reach out to a couple companies that do the studies, but
really, Rosa?
Right now I can only do so much as a one-woman show here.
So what is down the road for Cecilia Marie? What do you want to get into? I understand the continued work that you're doing and it's great work. But what's next? Or what would you like to see? What do you... Rosa's here, by the way. Y'all can't see her on camera, but the therapy dog is hanging out.
And we were talking about my dogs are going to be jelly. That's what he was making fun of me.
I'm not saying that word. Oh, Lord have mercy on me.
I could be like my mom and say cool beans.
I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it better than the other J word. What's down the road for you?
So what I want to do is, of course, I want to get a larger space. I'm currently looking for a larger space to house not only just myself, but several other artists. We have something similar like that now, but it's really just kind of closed in, like salon suites. They have like hairstylists, waxers. I wouldn't mind having something like that, but incorporate other artists as well.
Right.
I would just like to create a fun space. I almost kind of think of it like as a library.
Yeah.
But for art.
Yeah.
And it could be anybody that wants to rent an office. It will just be individual rooms, and people can do what they want with them. That's within that realm of therapy or safe space or just art.
What about for you personally? Where do you want to grow? Where do you want to learn? Where do you want to...
I still wouldn't mind learning a little bit more about art therapy. I still wouldn't mind doing that. I do want to have either like a B corporation or like a nonprofit to help give back. I do like teaching. So far, I've only had a few apprentices, but I like being able to offer a different way of learning and doing that. So that's really it. As far as professional wise, I had other dreams of getting a bigger house and, traveling with my family, my loved ones. I would love to show, all my kids that, hey, there's life outside of this little bubble of the world.
Doubt.
That's probably my main thing.
That's cool.
Spend more time with family, but also build generational wealth. I'd like to be able to build a business that my kids can partake in. My partner can, my family can. And I think it would help a lot of people.
It'll change the culture and it'll change the mindset of a culture as we continue to build that generational wealth, build the influence, build the education, right, and the knowledge and the information sharing. So that it turns the tide.
I want to have a little section when you go into this space, and if they are looking for a therapist, they're looking for motivational speakers, they're looking for Reiki, yoga, whatever. It can just be this big wall of mental health. Yeah, and that you can pick whatever you need.
That's cool. Our name would be the only one on there. I just want y'all to know, you know what I'm saying? So look, we're taking it home. We've got a few minutes left. Please, and just know that people will send their questions and comments after, and we'll make sure they get to you. Second scripted question, and then we do the shout outs and all that good stuff. Second part of it, to me, life change means what? Right? So as you define it for whatever your journey has been, Cecilia, like to me, life change means what in a positive way? So
For me, for life change, I think to have a positive effect, on the rest of your life is staying open minded. I think I like to stay grounded and try to stay humble and remember where I came from while honoring that, but moving forward, that it doesn't have to be an anchor. But just being open minded that we don't know everything. There's different perspectives, and keeping your mind open. You just never know where that can lead you. And if you kind of just let go sometimes and see where it takes you, don't hold on so tight. I think that's can bring about a lot of different positive experiences in your life. Just be open minded. Don't be rigid in your little box.
I think what's funny about trauma, what's funny about suicidality, about some of the stories and things that we have is that we feel like that is the end of a story, so to speak. And so the ability to stay open-minded says that because of this or through this, something else is going to grow or blossom, but we got to let the story play out. And so part of what we do for therapy and part of what you do too is to say, oh, this is just one part of it. Let's keep telling the story.
Yeah.
So your ability to stay open-minded, life change means your willingness to be open-minded, to let the story play out. We may not have scripted it the way you would have never scripted your story the way it was ever.
No.
And yet because of that, you would have never been here.
Exactly. So it's hard when you look back, you feel regret. You have to think, well, I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have that happen. So I have to honor that. And that's also part of my therapy journey. I have to honor the things I went through. And that's hard to forgive yourself, forgive others for anyone that's hurt you or you've hurt yourself. And so that's also part of just me staying humble and be like, you know what? It's all right. It's okay. Let's just go with the flow and see where it takes you.
And it's funny because for me as a therapist, and many will tell you I'm very opinionated, very, hard-headed. It's hard to stay open-minded when we've been through some things, so we know some things and we've learned some lessons. And there's also the fear that plays in of saying, I don't want this to be repeated in any sort of way. And so when you see this playing out in other people or even in yourself, that fear starts welling up. And so it's really more challenging than we think to stay open-minded when we've been through some things. And it's to allow some things to again continue to happen so that it'll bring us somewhere where we don't know. And so that's hard.
It's very hard. And it's hard too if you have people close to you that are following down the same path that you went down and you're like, no, but the person has to want it. You have to want it. You have to admit to yourself that you want it and do and actively make those changes.
Absolutely.
And just that's also where open-mindedness comes in. You gotta let go, surrender to that.
I love it. So who do you shout out? What do you do? What's next? Where can we find Cecilia Marie? Yes, we can find you at the studio, but shout out and all that.
Social medias. It's Cecilia Marie Tattoos on the majority of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. My website, Cecilia Marie Tattoos. I definitely want to give a shout out to my boyfriend Terry and his daughter Scarlett.
What up, Terry? What up, Scarlett?
They've been my support system. They've been with me, and it's amazing to have my family. Also, my daughter, my son, even though they're away at college or at their dad's, they're in my family. Like I couldn't be here without the support of my family.
That's awesome.
And I used to do things very alone and very independent, and so over the years, I've learned to let go and allow that support.
To include them.
And I love everyone that's been there with me and gives me that support. I wouldn't be here without it.
Yeah. So now when you get you're going to go tomorrow and you're going to get a floodgates opened up clients, and they're going to have to wait 6 months because now you're all backed up, right?
Well, my books are closed right now.
Yo, so how we support all this and your books are closed? They're closed till 2027? Is that what you said?
No, I won't do that.
Come on now.
But no, so my books do open up next month and I'll be booking for the rest of the year. I only book out 6 months at a time.
Gotcha.
I'm hoping that with the apprentices that I have, and we'll train some more, that they'll be opening up to be open-minded and help others be a safe space as well. So I'm hoping if they can't come to me, at least they can come to the studio
and affiliate
and be in the environment. A lot of times they just want to be there. They just want to be part of it. And if I can offer a space where they can come and hang out and chit chat, they can also talk and
it's still the nod from you. Like, look, this is an extension of me.
Exactly.
So some of our
I'm trying to build
people,
and help my artists too. I want them to succeed just as much.
Because you're one person. Right. And they don't have arthritis.
I can't tattoo everybody. They might. They will.
I don't know, man. Don't tell everybody that. But the truth is that they're an extension of you, and they're not just an extension of the safe space, but an extension of a way to tell a story.
I hope to build that network. Absolutely, it's needed.
That's really cool.
Needed. I see it.
Yeah. For us, you've been such a blessing. For me personally, from the first day I met you, I was like, this lady is something. Like, there's just some, like, the energy was just different, but there's a chill energy to you. It's funny because people don't put chill with ADHD, and yet there's a chillness to you, like that says,
we all have different sides.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this. Me and Scarlett were talking about this morning
yeah,
about where we have multiple sides of us. You
Yeah.
know, so
yeah,
we all have our own sides, and we choose what side to show. I'm very bubbly most of the time, and you
Yeah.
know,
but you're authentic.
I try to look at the good in everything. I'm
Yeah.
not perfect in any means, but you know, what can you do? You can't stress
Yeah.
about certain things. And
I think that you're authentic and real and approachable. And what I was drawn to was the strength that you bring to a story that could be so debilitating, so crippling,
Absolutely.
so limiting. There's a strength to you. So I was honored, and I was really fascinated.
I got that from all the strong women in my family, all the strong men in my family. They paved the way, and I just took it a step further. Let's go.
That's cool.
I took the load, and I go.
That's cool.
The steps. We keep going. So
I love it. Look, keep doing your thing. I wanted to honor you.
Thank you so much for bringing me on. And what you got there?
It's a little gift, a little thank you.
Thank you so much.
Show it off if you want, but it's just a way for us to say thank you. Shout out to
thank you so much.
To you.
Yeah, I have your
Cecil
guys'
in the
business
studio.
cards in my studio, and I give them out. And you guys are awesome, you and Sophie. I love the work that you guys do.
We just wanted to say thank you, and we wanted to tell if you guys want a shirt, you either got to get on the show or you got to go to our Etsy shop. So that's our promo. So
patches, we took patches and stickers.
And we got stickers.
Okay.
We got stickers galore. So
stickers.
Yeah, we'll hook you up with some stickers.
Cool.
You can take them with you.
I need to make stickers too. I'm slacking. So.
I mean, you do. They're just permanent. They're all over your skin. I'm just saying, right? Like,
yeah.
Any last thoughts?
No, I don't have any thoughts right now.
Man, that flew by, didn't it?
It did. Is there any questions?
We got a couple.
Yeah,
we'll answer them. We'll keep them going.
Okay.
But I think that I want to respect the time, and I want to be honoring of that. You've been an amazing guest, and I'm honored to have you here. So thank you for y'all. Keep it going. Share this, and make sure that you continue the journey of telling your story, whether it's through artwork, through tattooing, through your therapist, or on your own as you continue that journey to be safe. This is Life Change Lounge. This is another episode. So Cecilia Marie, thank you, girl.
Thank you.
We're out.
Bye. Bumpers.